We're going to have a fun-filled day. We're going to have 35 minutes that we're going to try to help you do some more things to make more money to enjoy your life better. So without getting carried away in the details, because I know everybody's weather is probably miserable right now except for mine, I'm hoping you can all fall out with some really great ideas. And without going much further, my good friend Terri Murphy. Good morning, Terri.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's even chilly and icy here in Memphis, and I know you always brag about moving to Florida, but we all can't be in Florida. But I'll tell you what we all can do is we can really forget about the market, because I believe, having walked the talk, that you can make your own market. And the first thing you and I have both been on the road. We've been working with both realtors and loan professionals, and here's what we've heard. Well, you know, it's a slow market. Well, I don't have enough leads. Well, I get real busy, and then I'm not busy at all. So what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, and that always becomes the issue. It's a matter of people hurrying up and waiting. When they don't have anything, they run into prospect mode, and then they get a few people interested, and then they run into closing mode, and then we start this thing all over again. And part of what I've tried to bring to the table, and I know that you've always looked at, is the discipline of understanding prospecting and generating opportunities on a consistent basis. So I'm really looking forward to today, thinking that we can bring a lot to the table for people, because I think everybody gets a little bit tired of the roller coaster every now and then.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that it makes really good sense. You know, we study entrepreneurs with Don, having written the 1 Minute Entrepreneur, is that we're so busy working in the business that don't we work on the business. And here's the thing we know about prospecting. It has to have a consistency. You get one circle going with the prospect, you get the development, you get to the closing, and then you're out of business. So here's what we know. Prospecting without a plan is like driving to an unknown destination without a map. And we've got to know where we're going and how to get there. Well, here's one big tip I've learned. And I'm working with a good friend of mine, several good friends of mine who are top producers. Bob Corcoran's one of them. And he says you've got to know what activities pay and when they pay off the best. And so, Mike, you and I have been around the sales industry forever, and we know that this might be interesting to some of you. 48% of salespeople never, underline never, follow up with a prospect. That's almost 50%, Mike.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we are most guilty of in the mortgage business. You know, we fight so hard to get a referral, and then our referral partners send us one, and we talk to that person, and we pre-approve them for their loan, and the next thing we know is we don't ever call them back. We just make the assumption that, you know, when they're ready, they're going to come find us, and it's such a painful thing to witness when you sit down with loan officers who say, well, when was the last time you called your pre-approvals? And they say, well, they love me. They'll come back to me as soon as they're ready. And then we make a few phone calls and find out that they already bought a house and closed on their loan, just not with the person that they talked to first.
Right, and if you're a realtor and you're on this call, you know that the heartbreaker is you do this and you do that. Maybe you've called them the second time, and you don't want to bother them because you don't want to harass them, and then you see somebody else's sign go up in the yard. 25%, Mike, of salespeople make the second contact and they stop. Now, 12% of salespeople make only 3 contacts and stop. Now, you know, if you're listening to me, you're probably saying, you know what, I don't want to harass these people. I'm sorry, Terri. Well, here's the thing. Depends on how you're making the contact, because only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. Now, you think about the people you think are your competition. You think they're that good? I don't think so, because if only 10% of salespeople are making more than 3 contacts, you can be way ahead of the game. Now, here's a factoid, Mike, I think might interest you. 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 2%. That's 98% is not. 3% are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 5%. That's still a whopping 95%. And 10% of sales are made on the fourth. Now, Mike, what do you think? Where do you think the mother load kicks in?
Clearly, if we're doing the math correctly, 5, 6, and 7 seem to be the popular choices.
80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. 80%. Now, I got to tell you, that doesn't mean you camp outside their home, you sleep on the floor, you put a sticker on their windshield every day, but you've got to understand the laws of prospecting. Got to go past 5. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. Now, it has never been easier, Mike, because we have this thing called the Internet. And I'm not saying that you don't talk to them, but I'm saying that there are ways to deliver value, right, beyond the initial contact in such a way that says, I'm thinking about you, I want to help you, I'm here if you need me, here might be a question you have. People, it's never been easier, but here's the problem, Mike. Why do we give up? Why do you think?
Well, you know, because it's really like everything else we've talked about, and I think all your answers are here, you know, in order. Is first of all, we're probably not taught the system. I think the biggest complaint that I have with our industries, both of them, is we really don't teach people the day-to-day processes of what we're supposed to do. And I think, you know, part of the reason that we're doing these types of calls is because what we both found out is what is common sense in the mortgage and real estate industry isn't so common. In fact, before we even started the broadcast today, we were talking about the sheer number of people complaining about the lack of inventory and just hoping the market was gonna open up. And we all know that hope is not a really great success strategy, that having a plan and knowing what to do and when to do it is paramount in being successful on an ongoing basis.
Well, that's true. No plan. We get to our office, and if you're like most of us or any entrepreneur, you just start hunkering down, roll up your sleeves, and you start working. And how many of us have gone home at the end of the day exhausted and frustrated and wondering, what the heck did we do? Because it's so easy to become unfocused. So we don't have a plan in place, keyword. We don't have a strategy. So, I mean, who in the world wants to go to the office, sit down at their desk, and look at that phone and go, who should I call? You have to have a strategy. Plus, you want to have a script. Now, you might say, well, Terry, I think that sounds canned. Well, you know what? It helps to know what to say if they throw you a curve.
You know, Terry, and that's an important piece right there is the fact that people talk about scripts. And what I really want people to understand is that a script doesn't necessarily have to be a line-by-line verbatim, you know, outcome. I think a script is there to provide you guidance as to how the conversation should flow and remind you about what it is that you want to talk about in the relevant points. So in a script, for some people, if they don't like the word script, then maybe discussion points or topic points or conversation topics, whatever that may be. But the simple fact of the matter is, I don't want anybody to go out there and read off of a card or a letter. I want you to own the conversation. It has to be free and ongoing, because if it's not, then it's not you, it's somebody else. And that's not what people are looking for. They're looking for information, education, and options. And that will come from them asking questions and you being that solutions provider. So when we talk about scripts, let's just be clear. Scripts don't necessarily mean you read from the beginning to the end and then just hope they say yes. But when you're scripted, it just means that you're directed and you're focused and you know from point A to B to C exactly where you're going to go based upon the response of the person that you're speaking with.
That's a great point. Howard Brinton used to say, if you think scripts are bad, it's because you don't know how to do them. You're right. It's a guideline for you to know where to go when you get an objection or they have a question. No value offer. You know, if it takes 5 to 12 touches, what are you going to offer them in between besides, want to buy a house, want to buy 2, want to list your house, want to list 3? You've got to have a value offer. The 5 biggest mistakes sellers make, the 4 things you can do to improve the bottom line on your sale of your home, 4 things every buyer should know about qualification. You've got all this information is available. You have to have it ready. There's no commitment in your schedule. Boy, I'll tell you what, how many people got up today, ran 5 miles, lifted weights, drank some kind of green thing? I mean, there's no commitment. You're not going to do it. And here's the one thing that I think really is a problem for most agents, Mike, and that is there's no measurement. Unless you know the metrics of what works and what doesn't, it's really easy to get burned out. I mean, anybody can smile and dial, but at some point, you've got to figure out what works. And so today, in our next couple of 20 minutes, we're going to talk about how do you start tracking the effectiveness of your prospecting. So let's just start with the basics. Who should I call? How many people do I speak to in an hour? How much money do I actually make from each call? Even if they say no, Mike, how much do I make per hour? Should I leave a message on their voicemail? And how many calls should I target to make in a day? And here's the thing. You've got to have this plan. So maybe you are a specialist in one given geographical area. Then you want to target that area. Maybe you want to just target your past clients and customers to let them know that you're not dead. That could be another thing. Maybe you want to call on the leads that came through your website, if you have a website that collects leads. And maybe you are looking to call back up on a networking event that you were on. But you've got to have a list. And I think if you make it small and manageable to start, then you're going to have a much better idea. So here's how this is our premise, Mike. This is what we've got to figure out. And so if you're on this call, go to the site, download this particular slide, and then let's figure out what you need to do so that you can start measuring your effectiveness. Now, we know that time is money. It depends on the type of prospecting you're doing. Obviously, if you're calling a past client, unless they're going to move that day, that might not be a listing, but heaven knows they know their market, their neighborhood. What days of the week, Mike, are the best? How much time should you spend on each call? You do a brilliant analogy when you talk about that 30-second contact call, that 1 minute. Why don't you tell us about how you instruct your coaching people on that call?
One of the issues that we have when we speak to people is we really don't have a clear plan of what it is that we're going to say, how it is we're going to say it, how long it should take to get the point across, and what the successful culmination of that conversation should have been. And really what I do, and when it comes to the mortgage side of the equation, is there are three types of phone calls. The 30-second to 3-minute touch conversation. And here's the amazing part. Just tell people. When you call them on the phone, "Hi, Mr. Smith, it's Mike White here. I only have a couple of minutes, but I wanted to touch base with you about this particular point." The next is what I call a conversation or an information gathering call. And these calls are anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. Now, in the mortgage business, it would be when we're gathering enough information to pull credit to see if we should collect documentation for a pre-approval. It's finding out a little bit about the client and what their goals are. And that's a conversational phone call, all righty, and that is 5 to 10 minutes. And the goal there is to convey a point and collect information or data and schedule the next phone call. Last but not least is the consultation, and that is going to be anywhere from 10 minutes to a half hour. And in the mortgage business, that's when we're going to explain, here are your options of what it is that you can do. Now, each one of these types of conversation, you should tell people in advance how long that conversation is supposed to take, not only so that you know, but so that they know. And if you tell them this is a 10-minute conversation, they don't have 10 minutes, they can tell you, you know what, I don't have 10 minutes right now. Could you call me at 4 o'clock? And then you can reschedule that phone call so that you're not getting the customer to hang up on you or to rush you off the call. So that becomes very important, is the fact that you do need to know what it is that I'm calling for, what that specific call to action is, and what's the result am I trying to achieve. And if you remember those things, and if you remember to share it with the client or the customer or the prospect right up front, they know exactly why you're calling, and they're much more likely to help speed up the process to the answer that you want to receive.
Excellent. Well, we know that in the real estate business, it's not unlike, I mean, obviously, if you do your 5 a day, which we've talked about in previous power sessions, you know, you're just like, hey, this is Terri Murphy, passed your house today. Just wanted to say hi, see how you were doing. Just wanted to touch base. You know, the decorations are looking good. The new landscaping is looking good. I love the new shutters. Something that says I'm thinking about you. That shouldn't take longer than 30 seconds to a minute. But here's the thing. We're going to go into the most important part of the call. How much time you spend, of course. I always like to preface this with, is this a good time? Do you have 3 minutes? That's all I have. I always do that takeaway. What days of the week really work, Mike? And believe it or not, our friend Bob has laid this out, the best time of the day to prospect, and wouldn't we all want to know that? And then most importantly, do you know when it is the best time of the day or the week to make your prospecting calls? Well, if you don't know, we got here just in time, because I'm going to show you Bob's best time to prospect, and you'll notice that the yellow is the best time each day to prospect, and the green is the best time each week to prospect. Now, this is over 11 years. He has figured out that his average client, meaning the real estate agent, will make when doing it right, can make $1,600 an hour. Get that? Just prospecting. So it's important for us to know when's the best time to call. And you might notice that he's suggesting that the best time to catch people is in the afternoon. Mike and I discussed earlier how you've got to make some of those calls in the morning, because here's what happens to your day. It starts rolling. You get distracted. You're too busy. And suddenly you don't pencil in that prospecting time. I'm going to suggest that you do it twice a day, because you've got different kinds of prospecting. I think you ought to plug it in the morning and just say from 9:30 to 10:30, I'm going to prospect. And then I'm going to prospect again between 1 and 2. And that just, you block it out. Now, if you're working with a buyer, obviously you can't do that. But if you don't schedule it, what happens, Mike?
Yeah, you know, as well as I do, if you don't schedule it, it doesn't get done.
Yeah. So let's just take the scenario, Mike, of a buyer agent, okay? I'm going to show you how to structure a call if you're a buyer agent. And what are the most effective questions you should ask? Well, it's not that hard. There are 5, 6 questions you need to start with, and it starts with, obviously, location. Obviously, you want to know how much they can afford. What's the price? What's the motivation? Most important thing, whether you're going to list or work with a buyer. Are you working with another agent? God knows we don't need to put them in our car and buy them lunch finding out, oh yeah, they've been working with somebody else. And hey, do you have a pocket full of cash, or are you going to need some money? And then how do we actually, and I hate to use the word close, but how do we lead them to a decision? So let's start with, hey, where do you want to live? So, you know, ring, ring. Somebody calls in and says, hey, I saw the home on Magnolia Mound, and you say, well, that home is in South Bluffs. Is that the only area you're looking to buy in? Or just out of curiosity, what other areas are you looking to buy in? Well, why would they call specifically on maybe a specific development? That's when you get the information. Well, our neighbors live there. My mother-in-law is a block away. The schools are close. You're close to the river. This is part of the needs analysis. And so when you start asking questions, ask permission. Hey, you know, I could probably help you a little bit more if, is that the only area you're looking at, or are you just looking for that style of house? That's going to give you some great information. Second one's price. How much house can they afford? We need to know that. Well, I'm looking up the information on the house on Magnolia Mountain. What price range do you think you're looking to buy in? Well, the house you listed is actually $1.4 million. Is that the price range you're looking for? Oh, really? Well, do you know what price range you're comfortable buying? And that, of course, leads into some other good questions like, do you know what your purchase power is? Have you worked with a loan professional to find out? So it's really critical that we start asking the questions up front. Here's another that's important. What if they're just exercising their local realtor, right? What's your motivation? By the way, do you currently rent or do you own a home? If you own it, oh, well, is it on the market? Is it on the market now? So are you in a month-to-month? Are you looking for long-term? Hey, just out of curiosity, how soon do you want to, if it were a perfect world, how soon would you like to be in that new home? Well, kids start school in September. I'd like to make it happen by then. You've got something to measure. And the rent-to-buy is another opportunity for you to work with your loan professional. Even if they said they've been pre-qualified, don't believe them. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, that's the biggest lies in the world are, you know, is the level of commitment in the person. I've already been, you know, pre-approved. Well, I don't necessarily know, and for me in my industry, and I know for you in the real estate industry, when somebody comes to you with a pre-approval, if you don't know the person who signed that pre-approval or you don't know that company, then you got no idea what they've been through to find out how accurate or if accuracy is even the slightest piece of the puzzle. So one of the things that I've always had my people do, and I have had the great fortune of working with realtors who were pretty dogged on the fact that they wouldn't let anybody go with the fact that they had a pre-approval from somebody they didn't know. They always wanted to refer them back to somebody that they could trust to make sure that they weren't spending their time showing people houses that either couldn't afford to buy the house they were showing them or couldn't afford to get anything at all. And that is more important now than ever because of all the changes in the lending environment. Being certain that the person who's pre-approved that buyer you're willing to spend time with knew what they were doing when they pre-approved that person, that's a really big deal because I'm seeing more and more right now deals that are being put together, and we all know how challenging it is just to get them together now, and they're blowing up at the closing table because the people were never going to get the loan in the first place, and they weren't given the opportunity to know that.
Well, Mike, here's another thing. What if they were pre-approved even 6 months ago or a year ago, and something significant has happened, like they bought a car, or they co-signed on a loan for their kid. I mean, so much can change. Here's where we become the heroes, Mike. When you work with a loan professional, you can make sure that if they're a seller, they can afford to sell. Or they can refinance, or you know what their purchase power is if they want to buy another house before you do all the legwork. And secondly, I just don't know who they went to. They could have, they could have had it done maybe by someone who just says, oh yeah, if you make X amount and da-da-da. I mean, you and I both know how that goes. Of course, one of the most important things for realtors is we need to know, are you working with an agent? Because if they've signed a buyer agency agreement with another agent, you want to know. Great question here is how long you've been looking for a new home. Now that sounds obvious. We've been looking for 5 or 6 years. Tells me a lot about motivation. How many homes have you seen the inside of? Because, well, we've been on Zillow we just do it every Sunday. It's our little thing. Well, just out of curiosity, how many of the homes that you're seeing, are you going to open houses? Are you going to an agent? Or are you just driving around? You see, you want to know at this point if you're working with an A buyer, a B, or a C buyer. If it's an A buyer, you get to go to the mortgage and then close for the appointment. If it's a B or a C buyer, you got to start a follow-up system. And this is where we miss it because we don't have a system, keyword here, to consistently talk to them. Now, we know from the Internet that someone can be from 8 weeks to 3 years when you get an Internet lead. So a lot of agents on the call say, oh, those Internet leads, they don't work. They do. People just don't decide just for the heck of it to check on a house. They have some level of interest. Our problem is we don't know what level of interest. And so by having some kind of a system in place so that you know when you contacted them and just giving them that gentle nudge, we've had a scenario with a good friend of mine in Portland. She opted in on his website. He personalized the responses. It took 18 months, and she called and said, I want to see 3 houses. I'm moving to Portland. These are the 3, and it was a $700,000 sale. Now, if you added up all the time and energy that he spent, it was a tremendous return on the investment. That's because he was the only one that consistently gave her some kind of value on a timely basis, and he wasn't like trying to harass her, because it was at her option, especially if you're working with Gen X and Gen Y. And of course, the most important thing is, by the way, will you be paying cash or do you need a mortgage? Well, Mike, how many people have cash these days?
Well, and the funny part is still a lot of people do have cash, and cash buyers remain a significant part of the market. But more and more as people are looking around, even if you do have cash to buy the house, it's becoming less and less a strategic advantage to use cash. We're not dealing with the same inventory issues that we were dealing before with the foreclosures or trying to get the banks to agree. Many more of the properties now are seller to buyer transactions, and for all practical purposes, whether the person is using cash or they've been pre-approved for a loan by a reputable lender, the transaction is virtually the same with the exception of the property not passing an inspection or the property not appraising for value. Both of those, however, I would think a lot of people who were paying cash would do both of those anyway. So the market hasn't changed all that much when it comes to the cash buyer, but more and more financial experts will tell you that in this particular environment, with interest rates where they are, why would you pay cash for a house and tie up your money when there are so many other vehicles where you could invest your money, and get a much better return? Because let's be honest, once you put the money in the house, it's not always so easy or inexpensive to get that money out of that house should you need it. But it is a very viable question, and it takes just a little bit of time to look at a pre-approval letter and look at the verbiage in it and make sure that you know who the lender is that has signed it, because they can be anywhere from worthless to worth their weight in gold, and most of that has to do with the integrity of the person who put together the information.
So true, and here's the thing we just got to know. Most of us have prospect phobia. We don't want to prospect, but if you're taking floor time or opportunity time, or if you are soliciting information from your web, you still need to have a structure to the call so that you can determine, is this worth my time? Nobody's going to stick with a program that doesn't work, whether you're working out, whether you're saving, or you're trying to structure a call. So the most important part is here, closing for the appointment. Based on the information we've discussed that you've given me, here's what I recommend. Let's set up a time to meet, or go over the home buying process, or do a complete overview plus a time to go look at houses, or let me offer you my digital buyer guide so that you don't make any mistakes. At least you know you're not conflicting with another agent. You already know when they want to move in, and if it doesn't suit that the guy that's waiting to buy a house who only has 7 days while he's in town, you know that. If they have a credit issue, you're going to know that. These are ways for you to consistently keep that I think some trainers have used, that funnel, that sales funnel full. Just because they're not ready today doesn't mean they won't be ready in a few months. So you've got enough information if somebody's calling in on a buying thing to get you done. So was it a script? No, not really. Just some great questions to ask. Well, sometimes, Mike, I'd like to show the agents that are on the call kind of the flow of a script, so they realize it's not about using somebody else's words. It's more about knowing what to say and how to say it. So as an example, as a script, let's just say someone calls up and you say, hey, it's a great day here at Terri Murphy. Well, this is Terri. How can I help you? Well, I'm calling about your listing on Main Street. Hey, well, I looked that up. Is that the only area you're looking to buy in? Well, yeah, we don't know. We kind of really like that area. Well, I love that area. It's a great area. Just out of curiosity, are there other areas you might be interested in buying in? Why do you want to know? So you know. Well, we like, we like downtown, but we like midtown too. So do you know what price range you're comfortable in investing? Well, I was thinking about $200,000. Sounds great. Well, have you met with a loan professional yet? No. I want to find the house first and then call a lender. Well, never fight, right? You want to just say, I can appreciate that. I work with several people who felt the same way. However, I just want to let you know that I'd love to have you be a cash buyer, but you might need to be approved for a loan. And then once we found that home, because it is kind of a light market and that we don't have inventory and the good stuff goes fast, you're already approved. Boy, that makes your offer really taken seriously. Makes sense, right? Well, are they going to say no? Of course. Well, I'd like to do is give your name and number to one of my loan professionals. It'd be Mike White, and we work pretty closely with Mike, and he's able to help you with your situation, find the right, show you the right options with the right terms that really serve your overall mortgage fitness. When would be a great time? Would you be available later today if I can find him? Well, they're going to say yes or no. And by the way, do you own or rent right now? Why do you want to know that? Well, you got to know about what they're stuck with. So if they say they're renting, and you say, well, that's great. Now, are you in a long-term or do you rent month to month? Well, month to month is the answer. That's great because, we have a lot of work to do before your next rent payment is due, don't we? Well, what if they say, well, no, I own my own home? Well, I see that you're going to need to sell your current home before you purchase a new one. Is it on the market? Yes or no? Well, I'd like to recommend that we talk about getting your property on the market, find out who, how much it's worth, what are you expecting to do with it, da 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 da. If it's an investor, are you going to do a 1031 exchange, whatever. Now, how long have you been looking? Want to know. About a month. How many homes have you seen? Again, want to know. 3 or 4. Well, that's pretty good. If you've been viewing those, are you going through open houses? Are you working with an agent? Are you just driving around? Well, we've stopped in at open houses. Well, based on that information, first step is getting your home on the market so we can find a host that really suits your needs, and so that we're able to engage in that property if that's the one that meets your needs. Well, I suggest we set an appointment to get together and talk about getting into a new property. I've got such and such open, and by that time you'll have spoken to Mike about your mortgage, and we'll have had time to get your home and assessment and figure out what kind of a market position we've got, and then we'll be able to get you a brand new place to live. How does that sound? And by the way, do you know where our offices are located? So there you go. If you've got some metrics in place, like a pre-appointment package that Mike and I have talked about, or if you've got a buyer's guide report, you want to get their contact information. If they don't want to give it to you, you say, look, I'm not here to harass you. My job is to help people make the right decisions, whether they want to buy or sell. And you know what? I'm going to be here. If you'd like to have some information about what I know about the industry, being an expert, I'll send you my buyer guide, my seller guide, the 5 biggest mistakes. I'll direct you to a site so you don't even have to do that. At the end of the day, you don't give away your services without getting some compensation. The compensation in this case is the lead, and you don't want a false phone number. We've all been there. We don't want a false email address. It's like, I don't know who you've worked with. We're not in the harassment business. We're in the service business. And that'll take the pressure off. Mike, do you have a better script you'd like to recommend here?
Well, and I think the point is understand the elements. I don't think it's as important as what the words are. They have to sound like they come from you, and they have to sound like something that would be said in your market. One of the issues that I have is, geographically, this country is fairly diverse. There are people from all over the country who are on this phone call. And some things that would be said in New York would never be said in Alabama. And
That's
some
right.
things that would be said here in Florida would never come out of somebody's mouth in Michigan. And some things that would be said in Memphis would not be said in San Francisco. The reality of this is you've got to personalize this to yourself so that it sounds like it's you and it's natural, and it's got to fit your market. The points that we're making here is to make sure that you understand the areas that need to be addressed, and so that you have a contingency to move people through the process to extrapolate information. Because after all, when you're giving up your time, you have to be able to get paid for that. And it doesn't happen in a closed transaction right away. It comes in the form of gathering information and moving the relationship along.
Yeah, and Mike, I just want to talk about that when you refer to different parts of the country. One of the things referred to is how many people, what's the best time to call people? Well, what's the most productive time in your area? That's kind of something that you have to figure out. We know that Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday are pretty good prospecting days. Nobody wants to be harassed on Monday, and a lot of people leave on Friday. So those might be generally the best days, but you've got to check that out. What's the most productive time, quote, in your area? Well, you might start at 6, but if you're interrupting people's dinner, they're not going to be happy. 9 o'clock's too late for the demographic if you're working with people over a certain age, or if they're putting children to bed. Sometimes it's been proven that between 7:30 and 8:30 is good. Best daytime hours between 3 and 4. Got to follow the script. Got to ask permission. See where I'm going? So, Mike, a lot of times we get questions like, should I leave a message on the machine? It's a personal preference. If you've got a follow-up, and it depends on the nature of the call. As an example, hi, I see that you left your phone number on an email for a lead that came off of our website. This is Terri Murphy. Thanks so much for contacting me. As a professional in your area, I'm here to help you. Let me know when a great time for us to talk is. I'm available at, you can text me at, my Facebook, whatever. We know that if you start inputting your commissions, that you make that are directly in proportion to the calls that you've made, you can figure out what you're making per hour. Now, you know that if you know that every dial of the phone's making you $120, whether you talk or not, that helps you stay motivated for your next call. Now, there's all kinds of tools out there and systems that actually do the calculations for you. Sometimes they are printed out, but you just got to know, answer and ask. And those are the two things. You got to build the rapport. You can't ask for the sale before you've built the bridge of trust. And we know that every time somebody asks you a question, Michael, answer it and immediately ask them a question. Or if they make a statement, acknowledge it and then ask a question. Because when you do that, you're engaging. So when you use a script, they only have one purpose, and that's help for you to get the information to help decide whether or not this is an appointment that's going to make you money. And so if you have any questions, go ahead and email us at improvemytomorrowcoaching.com, because we are recorded. And Mike, why don't you tell them about our Lunch and Learns?
Well, Terry, you know, the Lunch and Learns is something we've been doing for a while now, and it grows every month that we do this. It's designed to help that relationship between the mortgage professional and the real estate agent so that they can work more effectively together to generate their opportunities. And we've been doing this, you and I, for a number of years, working together and talking about real estate and mortgage, this whole relationship. And since about 1995, when we first went out into the world and started speaking to people about how this worked together, we have spent a great deal of time speaking to hundreds and thousands of realtors and mortgage people, and there's a wealth of knowledge that we've acquired from looking at those relationships and seeing how the successful ones work well together and how the ones that don't work so well and why they're not so successful. So we put together these Lunch and Learns, and largely everybody who's on this call today was invited by a mortgage professional who thought it might be important to get you on this call and gather some of the information. And we're really thrilled that you're here, because it's part of the value-added proposition that that mortgage professional has with you and as part of our coaching services. Now, for those of you who are realtors who are on this call, and this is your first introduction to Improve My Tomorrow Coaching, we want to make you aware that not only are these Lunch and Learns available for you and your entire office for just $999 a year, but any of you who come into any of our coaching programs, whether they be the mortgage side or the real estate side with Terri, you have access to our database, you have access to our information, all the webinars that we've done, all the downloadable reports and ebooks, and certainly if you select a particular program that includes private one-on-one coaching, that will be made available to you. And so significantly, these programs are all about creating value. What we've learned over the years executing the relationships between mortgage professionals and realtors. And this topic about prospecting, along with all the other topics that we've done, have all been recorded and all remain as part of the website, as part of a library that you can always go back to. And as always, Terri and I are here either at Mike at ImproveMyTomorrowCoaching.com or Terri at ImproveMyTomorrowCoaching.com. And you can reach out to us with your questions, and we'll be happy to do what we can to answer them and move forward. If any of you are interested in any of the coaching services, the outlines for those services are on the website. And if you have specific questions or you have a specific need, please let us know, and we'll be happy to reach out to you and have a conversation to see if we are a solution to the challenge that you may have in your mortgage or real estate career. So I appreciate all of you being here. Terri, thank you once again for your time. And let's everybody be prepared that, again, we're here now, and we'll be back in our Lunch and Learn in April. On April the 8th. God, I can't believe it. We're talking about April already, but here we are. We get April the 8th, a full week before you get to write that check to the IRS for all the money that you've made. So isn't that a wonderful thought? So, Terri, thank you once again, everybody. Thank you for your time. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.